In February 1956, something unexpected happened in the world of music that would shake things up forever. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, made a series of appearances on the popular TV show, Stage Show. What made these appearances shocking was not just Elvis himself, but how he was received by both the audience and the industry. He performed 5 times, each time doing 2 songs, but most notably, he belted out Heartbreak Hotel 3 times in a row. It was as if the crowd was hypnotized, screaming for more. This was no ordinary performer. Elvis was creating a phenomenon. During this time, Elvis was mostly seen performing with country acts in Florida. But there was a special moment when he shared the stage with Charlie Louvin from the Louvin Brothers. Charlie was rising fast, becoming a bigger star by the day. The stage was set with a massive sign that simply read ELVIS, leaving no doubt who the star of the show was. Elvis had become so famous that even his name, Presley, was dropped. Just being near him was a thrill. His management, led by the legendary Colonel Parker, was a master at promoting him. Parker was known to do almost anything to advance his artist. He aimed high, wanting to make a staggering $50,000 a week for Elvis. This wasn't just about music, it was about building a brand, a combination of great talent and smart marketing. While Elvis was captivating audiences in Florida, another story unfolded in Oklahoma. Folk singer Tom Paxton was a student at the University of Oklahoma when Elvis came to town. It was 1956, and Elvis was in the midst of an explosion. The venue could hold 5,000 people, but every ticket was sold. Elvis was so new and so different that the other acts on the bill, all country musicians, were in for a shock. The crowd wanted Elvis and only Elvis. When he took the stage, the place erupted. Elvis' setup was surprisingly simple, just one microphone for his voice and none for his guitar. The Jordanaires shared one microphone, and the other musicians had basic equipment. Yet, despite the technical simplicity, the performance was electrifying. This was the power of Elvis. He could captivate an audience with minimal equipment. Elvis' rise was not just about his performances, it was also about his music. Heartbreak Hotel, one of his earliest hits, was a surprising entry into the charts. It started on the country chart and quickly climbed to number 1, staying there for 17 weeks. Though it wasn't strictly a country song, it appealed to a wide audience. Another song, I Was the One, reached number 19 on the pop charts, even though it was sold as a separate entity from Heartbreak Hotel. This was unusual, but it showed that airplay was important. Heartbreak Hotel eventually crossed over to the pop charts, reaching number 1 in April and staying there for 8 weeks. The song's success on the R&B chart at number 3 was a testament to Elvis' broad appeal, touching teenagers across different musical tastes. The release of Elvis' first album in March 1956 marked another milestone. The album, simply titled Elvis Presley, featured a mix of new and previously unreleased tracks. Its cover, with Elvis' image in bold pink and green letters, was as striking as his performances. The album debuted at the top of the US album charts, selling 100,000 copies in its first week. This was no small feat. It meant Elvis was attracting not just fans of rock and roll, but also working teenagers and young adults who could afford the more expensive albums. As Elvis turned 21, his manager, Colonel Parker, negotiated a new contract. Despite Parker's usual tricky tactics, this time he was straightforward. However, Parker's plans were complicated by his prior commitments to Elvis, including weekly appearances on Louisiana Hayride. By April, Elvis was only able to make his 7th appearance of the year on the show, leading Parker to break the contract. Parker paid $10,000 to get out of it, a large sum at the time, showing how valuable Elvis had become. Meanwhile, Sun Records, where Elvis had first recorded, was also thriving. Johnny Cash was rising as a star, and his song, Folsom Prison Blues, was hailed as a masterpiece. Cash, with his rebellious style, became known as the Man in Black. At around the same time, a story emerged about how Blue Suede Shoes, a song by Perkins, came to be. It was inspired by a casual conversation about shoes, showcasing how everyday life can spark creativity. Perkins' song became a massive hit, reaching number 2 on the pop charts and showing that white rock and roll could appeal to black listeners as well. However, success can be fleeting and dangerous. In March 1956, disaster struck Carl Perkins. During a trip to perform on the Perry Como show, his car crashed in Virginia. The accident was severe, leaving Perkins and others badly injured, while W.S. Holland, the drummer, miraculously escaped unharmed. This incident highlighted the risks that came with the glamour of rock and roll. These events paint a picture of a rapidly changing music landscape, where one young man's talent and charisma were reshaping the industry. Elvis Presley was not just a singer, he was a cultural force, breaking barriers and setting new standards for success. His journey was just beginning, and the world was ready to watch. Elvis Presley sent a telegram to Carl Perkins while Carl was in the hospital. Elvis said he was shocked and sorry about the accident. He told Carl he knew what it was like to have a bad car crash because he had some himself. Elvis offered to help if he could, and said he would be at the Warwick Hotel in New York City. Some people wondered why Elvis wrote that telegram. They thought maybe he wanted to take the spotlight away from Carl Perkins, who had a hit song called Blue Suede Shoes. But Elvis actually recorded Blue Suede Shoes before Carl did. He sang it on a TV show in March, but not on the date Carl's version was becoming popular. Elvis' song wasn't released as a single until after Carl's was doing well. Elvis had no intention of copying Carl. In fact, he loved the song and wanted to sing it too. Colonel Parker, Elvis' manager, didn't push for any special deals over the song. This means Elvis might have actually helped Carl by bringing more attention to his music and earning him more money from royalties. Elvis really liked Blue Suede Shoes. A few weeks later, on April 3rd, Elvis performed on a TV show hosted by Milton Berle. This show was for people on a military ship called the USS Hancock, which was in San Diego. Elvis played a few songs, including Blue Suede Shoes, which he did in a way that was more like how Carl Perkins played it. Bill Black, Elvis' bass player, played along on the double bass. Even though Elvis' version was popular, it didn't become a big hit that day. It was already on the charts, but it didn't jump to the top spot. Around this time, Milton Berle made a funny show about Elvis. In the sketch, Elvis had a twin brother named Melvin who taught him everything about being a musician. It wasn't a very nice thing to do, especially since no one knew Elvis had a real twin sister, Jessie Guerin, who was very important to him. Despite the funny sketch, Elvis kept performing. He had to deal with the aftermath of Carl Perkins' accident for a long time. Carl became very sad and started drinking a lot. Then, the death of his friend JB in 1958 made things even worse for Carl. He lost his drive to keep going. Later, the Beatles helped bring Carl's music back into people's minds, which was a nice tribute. On April 14th, Elvis went back into the studio to record a new song, I Want You, I Need You, I Love You. This song showed a softer side of Elvis. At the recording session, he got a gold disc for selling over 1 million copies of Heartbreak Hotel. His new song became a big hit, reaching number 1 on the country charts. The song My Baby Left Me also did well, though it wasn't as big as Heartbreak Hotel. In April 1956, Elvis started a month-long performance at the New Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas. Colonel Parker thought this was a great idea because he wanted to spend time playing cards in Vegas, but Las Vegas was not the best place for Elvis. It was mainly for older people who liked gambling and not so much for young fans. The city didn't change much over the years, and it was hard for Elvis to connect with the younger audience there. A few years before, Ronald Reagan had performed at the New Frontier. He told jokes, sang, and danced, which was quite different from Elvis' style. Reagan's act was more suitable for the audience there, which was mostly made up of older people. Elvis learned from this experience later on. When he returned to Las Vegas in 1969, he made his shows all about being Elvis himself. He was more relaxed and funny, though sometimes his performances of old songs weren't as good as they could be. During his short time in Las Vegas, Elvis shared the stage with other acts, like the comedian Shecky Greene and the band Freddie Martin and his orchestra. Freddie Bell and the Bellboys, another band, also performed there. They ended up becoming friends with Elvis even though he didn't have a long stay in Vegas. Liberace, the flamboyant musician, wanted to meet Elvis, hoping for a mutual attraction. Elvis only performed for 2 weeks in Las Vegas before being paid to leave. His final recorded performance there was on May 6th, and it included songs like Money Honey and Long Tall Sally. Though it might seem like a failure at first, hearing the recording today shows Elvis was still full of energy and personality. He played jokes, stumbled over words, and even made up song titles. He knew his audience, like when he acknowledged famous people in the crowd. Even though the audience might not have been as young and wild as those who would later scream for artists like Tom Jones, Elvis still managed to connect with them. Despite being paid to leave, Elvis' performance record at the end of May showed he was at the top of his game. His album, simply titled Elvis Presley, became the best-selling album in RCA's history at that time. Let's talk about Elvis Presley and how people reacted to him in the 1950s. Elvis was a big deal, but not everyone liked what he was doing on stage. His dance moves and how he sang about love and desire made some people very uncomfortable. One time in a small town called La Crosse, Wisconsin, some people got really upset after Elvis performed. They thought what he did was too sexual and not right for young people to see. They said he was a danger to society. This happened even though Elvis just changed the words in a song to make it about a dog and a rabbit instead of a man and a woman. Elvis had a big fan club, but some people thought their meetings could turn into something not good. The police even got involved, worried about what might happen. But Elvis had a lot of fans who loved him no matter what. In 1956, Elvis appeared on a popular TV show hosted by Milton Berle. He sang and moved in a way that shocked many people. Some said he was just trying to get attention and that his moves were too suggestive. This made a lot of parents and church leaders really mad. They said Elvis was bad and should not be allowed to perform. Despite all the criticism, Elvis kept performing and became even more famous. His song Hound Dog became super popular after he did a special performance on a TV show. People loved the energy and excitement he brought to his shows, even if some didn't like what they saw. Elvis's style and success changed how music was made. Many artists started copying his look and sound. Some people thought this was okay, while others, like jazz musician Barney Kessel, felt it wasn't original. They said Elvis was taking ideas from black musicians and making them his own, which wasn't fair to the original artists. Elvis's mom, Gladys, was worried about him, especially when it came to his fans getting too excited. She just wanted to make sure he was safe. Even though Elvis knew some people didn't like how he performed, he didn't change much. He once said to his mom that if she didn't like it, she shouldn't come to his shows. Some people made fun of Elvis through jokes and songs. One funny song called him Elvis the Pelvis, playing on words to make fun of his dancing style. While some found it funny, Elvis's family, especially his mom, felt hurt when people said bad things about him. They saw these attacks as attacks on their son. Elvis continued to perform, even in places where he wasn't always welcome. He knew some people would criticize him, but he didn't let that stop him. He was a big star, and lots of people loved him for who he was and how he made them feel. Through it all, Elvis changed music and how it was performed. He brought a new energy that captured the attention of millions. Even though there were a lot of people who didn't agree with his style, Elvis's impact on music and culture is still felt today.